Welcome.
Welcome to the Everything Podcast, and in this episode, which will be a Big Finish episode, I'll be giving you my Big Finish recommendations based on a comment I received on one of my more recent episodes of the podcast. But before we get started, I'm recording this episode on the 31st of August 2025. But to start off, I should probably read out the comment that kind of gave me this idea, because I actually had this idea whilst I was working, because I'd read the message and I was thinking about it. I was going, okay, because that's at the moment, it's kind of sometimes where I get my podcast ideas from. And so this is the comment from @DaveSmith300. Thanks for the comment as always. What would you recommend to get into Big Finish to start off if you haven't listened to anything? Now, so normally, kind of when I reply to a comment, I reply to it and that's it. But I thought kind of there might be other people that didn't feel that they could comment that were asking similar things. So I thought I'd make it into a video, an episode. And in this, what I've done is I've separated it by range. So I've chosen a story or a box set in most cases for my favourite release from that range. So without further ado, let's get started. So we'll start off with the first Doctor Adventures, and I've chosen The Outlaws as it's the introductions of Stephen Noonan as the first Doctor and Lauren Cornelius as Dodo. So it's a good starting point, I think, and you've got the Meddling Monk in there. It's got two stories as well, so you might not preferably like one and you might like the other. Similar vein with my pick for the second Doctor Adventures, which is Beyond War Games, which in a similar vein is the introduction of Michael Troughton as the second Doctor for Big Finish, and it kind of introduces him, and you've actually got Tim Treloar, who's Big Finish's third Doctor, in there as different characters. Same with Katie Manning, who obviously plays Jo Grant / Jo Jones, depending upon where in her timeline stories are set. And the Brigadiers in there as well, played brilliantly by John Culshaw. Speaking of kind of the Third Doctor era, Third Doctor Adventures next. Now I've chosen The Quintessence. Now this is a story where the Third Doctor and Jo Jones face off against the Cybermen, which obviously were a well-known Doctor Who villain, so that's why I kind of chose that, and it's a 3-hour story. So it's just one story, but it's quite a good one. Next up, the Fourth Doctor Adventures. Now I've chosen The Curse of Time, which was a release that was released in December 2024 to mark the 50th anniversary of the Fourth Doctor. If you think that title sounds familiar, I have already recapped it as well, so kind of if you're not quite sure, my recap is there as well. Then we have the Fifth Doctor Adventures with The Great Beyond, which, similar to the Quintessence, is one long story. I wanted to choose a box set because obviously the Fifth Doctor Adventures in 2025 was 2 box sets, but it was one long story. I didn't really want to pick that. It is a good story, it's like 6 hours long, and I didn't really want to commend it. So it's one story, so that's why I chose it, and features the Fifth Doctor, Tegan, Nyssa and Adric. So and then we have the Sixth Doctor Adventures, The Trials of the Time Lord, which, similar to The Curse of Time, was an anniversary release. This one was marking the 6th Doctor's 40th anniversary. This was released in August 2024, titled The Trials of the Time Lord, similar to The Quintessence and The Great Beyond and The Curse of Time to a certain extent. It's all one story, but it involves a TV show, and I really, really enjoyed this one. I haven't recapped it, but kind of I would really suggest it because it's a lot of fun. yeah, and they've got Daleks, are Cybermen in there? I think they are. There's loads of villains in there as well. It's madness, but good madness. And then next up is the Seventh Doctor Adventures, to another release that I have already recapped on the podcast, and that is Past Forward, which obviously which has a 4-parter with a 2-parter in between. So you've got With the Angels, which kind of sees the departures of Harry and Naomi. I was kind of a bit hesitant to pick it because I was kind of like, with the departures of Harry and Naomi, but then you've got the reintroduction of Ray, who I've not seen much of classic Doctor Who, so kind of I didn't really know who she was, and I kind of picked that up quite well and quite easily. So I thought, okay, if I can, then you would. And With the Angels is a fantastic story, and Catastrophics, which is the 2-parter, kind of it all kind of merges. It's a very timey-wimey story, but it's very easy to follow, kind of, as long as you're concentrated. But it is kind of, it is a lot of fun. Next up, speaking of releases that I've already recapped on the podcast, we have the 8th Doctor Adventures with the Stuff of Legend, which was released in September 2024 to mark 25 years of Big Finish doing Doctor Who audio dramas. So that's that one, and that features obviously the 8th Doctor. It also features Charlie, Daleks, Alex McQueen's Master. So again, similar to like the Trials of a Time Lord, it's got a few monsters in there. Carry on the theme of releases I've already recapped. We have the Lost Stories Death World, which is kind of a alternative version of the 3 Doctors, so it's the 10th anniversary. So it stars the first 3 Doctors, as well as Jamie, Joe, and the Brigadier. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I actually re-listened to it to recap it for the podcast, actually. So I'd listened to it when it came out, and it's a lot of fun. And it's about 2 hours long, similar length to The Curse of Time, so it's quite more digestible than maybe something like, that's why I like Hook Light, which is 6 hours long, which I wasn't going to recommend, and the audio novels, which just, yeah, they're just quite long. Next up, we have the New Adventures of Bernie Summerfield, which continues kind of the theme of releases that I've already recapped, because I've recapped the Eternity Club 1, and I kind of suggested it for a few reasons. It's the start of a new series, and if you've listened to the Eternity Club, the Dalek Eternity starts in September 2025, so, which obviously is this month. So kind of it would get you in that kind of theme. Now on to a release that I haven't recapped on the podcast, so that's Classic Doctor's New Monsters, Faithful Friends, which includes stories featuring, let me get this right, the 2nd Doctor, the 4th Doctor, the 7th Doctor, and the 8th Doctor, I think, as well as Zoe, Jamie, Ray, speaking of Ray again, who else? And then we've got villains like the Krillitane, the Monks, and the Lupari as well in there. So it's a whole lot of fun, and is kind of in a similar vein to the Halloween and Christmas specials being released later this year. Next up, we have the War Doctor Rises, Morbius the Mighty. Now this is the start of the War Doctor Rises series. It's not the start of the War Doctor at Big Finish, but I kind of thought that it has its current range and run, that I kind of thought it was a good a release to suggest. Similar to like Past Forward, is a bit hesitant because like Past Forward doesn't rely on it, but kind of Harry and Naomi, you're kind of going to get more about it if you know more about them. Morbius the Mighty kind of follows on from Dark Gallifrey Morbius. More on Dark Gallifrey later on in the episode. Where kind of it's a 3-hour story featuring the War Doctor and Morbius, basically. Next up, we have the Ninth Doctor Adventures. Now this was a no-brainer, really, and I've chosen Snare, which was released in August 2025, and it's the first Big Finish release starring both Christopher Eccleston and Billie Piper, obviously as the Ninth Doctor and Rose. I was kind of like, do I go for something more from the first 3 series of the Ninth Doctor Adventures? Then I kind of thought, no, and obviously it's starting season 4, and that will continue in October 2025. We then have the 10th Doctor Adventures. Now this was a bit tricky for me to kind of figure out, because like I was speaking about before with Hooklight, kind of I didn't really want to suggest something like Dalek Universe, which is great, but it's 3 box sets worth. That's 9 hours of stories. So what I have suggested is Out of Time, which is 3 releases, but Big Finish has recently re-released it as a box set, and that's where the 10th Doctor meets the 4th, 5th and 6th Doctors. And they're only a few years old, they're not ridiculous. And I think I've re-listened to all of them at least once each, so yeah, I'd recommend them. Next up we have the 13th Doctor Adventures, which is similar to the 9th Doctor Adventures with me obviously choosing Snare. Well, the 13th Doctor Adventures is even easier because there's only one released, Vampire Weekend, which is the start of the 13th Doctor Adventures. Season 1, will there be seasons 2, 3, 4, 5? Oh, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, Vampire Weekend, and it reintroduces the 13th Doctor and Yaz, and really kind of starts the range and the series well. And the 13th Doctor Adventures will return in the next few weeks with the Return of the Doctor, which releases in this month, September 2025. We're going to have the Fugitive Doctor, and I've chosen Most Wanted, similar to the War Doctor. What other ones? Oh, and the first Doctor Adventures, the second Doctor Adventures. Like kind of the beginning of that Big Finish run with Most Wanted, which I've actually recapped. At least, I think it's the Dimension of Lost Things I've recapped. So and that's the 3rd story. And so you've also got Fast Times and a story about Baba Yaga, who's a folk tale. So that's what I've suggested for that one. Next up we have the 11th Doctor Chronicles. This is obviously a release and a range that I covered at least half of the range. And I've suggested Geronimo because it's the beginning of it's where the 11th Doctor meets Valerie and kind of sets off that range, similar to the 13th Doctor Adventures, the 9th Doctor Adventures, the 1st and 2nd Doctor Adventures, the New Adventures of Birdie Summerfield. You can see a theme that I'm going for here. Next up we have Once and Future. Speaking of releases that I've already recapped on the podcast, Coda the Final Act, which features the Fugitive Doctor, the War Doctor, Bernie Summerfield, and Vienna, and Queen Elizabeth I thrown in there for good, and the Vord. So again, kind of similar to the Trials of Time, of loads of characters. Now this was released in November 2024 to kind of close off the Once and Future releases, and was released. And this was the first release starring Joe Martin as the Fugitive Doctor. So it was kind of nice. And then speaking of kind of first introductions to characters, we've got Call Me Master, Inner Demons. Now this was quite easy because it's the only release we've had of Sacha Dhawan's Master, but he will return this month with a new box set titled Monsters, so that'll be a lot of fun. Except like August, listening to Big Finish wise, because even though I'm not recapping it on the podcast due to how long the stories are, I still am listening to them. Kind of August is a quiet month, September is not a quiet month. So yeah, you've got that to look forward to. Then we have Class, Secret Diary of a Rhodian Prince, which I have also a recap. I should mention, I think I've recapped the first story in the Call Me Master Inner Demons box set, I believe. Yeah, please check that out. Same with Secret Diary of a Rhodian Prince, I've already recapped that, so please go check that out. Dark Gallifrey. This was a one where I was flitting between, because we're nearly halfway through Dark Gallifrey actually, because Morbius has released, the War Master's released, Missy's released, and when you're seeing this, and as of time of recording actually, the first 2 parts of the Master Trilogy, the Eric Roberts Master Trilogy has been released, but the 3rd and final part hasn't yet, and then we're kind of officially halfway through Dark Gallifrey. Because I remember talking about it in the podcast when it was announced, like a year and a half ago. But I kind of went with the one that kind of I had the most fun listening to, and kind of, because Dark Gallifrey is very interesting because it's quite standalone, but I've gone with the War Master, especially the War Master Part 2. I think it's just amazing. It's really fun, and the War Master and Captain John Hurt from Torchwood featuring that one alongside alongside Bernie Summerfield. It's just manic. And I think I've re-listened to that a couple of times as well, similar to Death World. And then Missy, as I talked about that we've recently had Jack Gallifrey Missy. Missy I thought it made sense to recommend Series 1 as it's at the beginning of Missy's Big Finish range. Then we have the Paternoster Gang, similar reasons for Heritage 1, kind of the beginning of the Paternoster Gang's adventures for Big Finish. River Song, Last Word, similar to the War Doctor Rises, it's the beginning of a new run for River Song, and kind of is a very what's the word I'm looking for? Very kind of, it starts you off in kind of it's an interesting story, but it's just similar to the War Doctor Rises. I'm trying not to repeat myself. We've only got a few more to go. So we've got Susan's War 1, which, similar reasons, kind of the beginning of Susan's adventures during the Time War. And then for Unit, the new series Extinction, which is the beginning of Unit, the new series at Big Finish. Very similar reasons for the War Master, only the good, but we've not got to wait long for both of those, actually, Unit and the War Master, because returns are coming in October. Different way, the War Master's got a new box set, and Kate and Osgood return for a story in the Halloween box set. And then we have Smith and Sullivan Reunited, which I've recapped the entire box set of, but because similar to like Call Me Master, for example, kind of it's the only box set, so kind of it was a much easier choice. Then Jenny's the Doctor's Daughter, Series 1, just the beginning of Jenny's adventures at Big Finish. And finally, Torchwood, the story continues, Aliens Among Us 1, because it picks up where Torchwood Miracle Day picks up, and those are all my Big Finish recommendations. This is a longer episode than I thought it was going to be, actually, but I'm glad I did it. But back to this episode, let me know what you thought of my Big Finish recommendations in the comments below, as well as with any Big Finish recommendations of your own as well. Put both of those in the comments below. As well, anything else you want to cover on the channel, such as any previews or recaps, put those in the comments below as well. Remember, you also like, comment and subscribe. And just a reminder that the podcast is now back to 1 episode a day. Not quite sure when it's releasing, because I'm recording this episode prior to the switch back to the 1 episode a day, so I'm not quite sure, but just keep an eye out on the channel or the Podcast X page, because Spreaker uploads when those episodes go live, and Matt uploads the when the YouTube episodes go live, so just keep an eye out on there. And obviously if you subscribe, YouTube lets you know automatically anyway. So yeah, just a reminder that speaking of YouTube, and speaking obviously the YouTube episodes, and the YouTube episodes are obviously animated by Matt, who does a fantastic job, and please keep supporting him. That's his job. He's an animator, so please keep supporting the podcast by watching those episodes, supporting Matt's work, because obviously, as much as if listening to only the audio is your thing, that's fine, but obviously you won't get like the additional episodes with Chuck, which will be coming out multiple times a week, and other little flourishes that isn't just the audio that I send to Matt, and then Matt turns it into something magical. But without further ado, I will see you in a future episode of the podcast. See you then. Goodbye.